lap record here held by Colin Edwards is most certainly not going to come under threat today. The umbrellas are out in pit lane. I'm Matthew Roberts. Luckily, I'm up nice and dry in the commentary box. Luckily for me, that is, of course. Nick Harris, as always, will be joining us live from the pit lane very shortly indeed. He's down there now, trying to stay out of the wet. And as you can see, it is still pouring down here. And a very, very tense time for these riders as they go out and join this race. It's very, very tricky conditions here at Donington Park. This surface was relaid a couple of years ago. And we're going to take a lap of the Donington Park circuit now. These images, of course, taken in dry conditions, a bit different for the riders today, but just to run through it. This is the Redgate corner, first corner, right-hand turn around 118 kilometres an hour, and then it's on the gas to one of the most exciting sections of track anywhere in the world. Craner curves. It's first, it's right, then it's left over the crest as well. You've got to have some heat into the left-hand side of the tyre to escape that without a big high side. We saw one from Makoto Tamada earlier in the week, and then it's up through under Starkey's Bridge through the left-hander, Schwantz corner, and then up to McLean's, this right-hander at the top of the hill. Third gear around 120 kilometres an hour through there, and then it's on the gas up towards McLean's. A blind entry to McLean's, slight dip before it. As you can see, you've got to pick your line before you even see the apex of the corner there. That's Coppice corner, and then it's on the gas out of Coppice onto this Dunlop straight, down under the Dunlop Bridge, slight dip just after the Dunlop Bridge. Look out for plenty of wheelies down there, and then onto the brakes into this Fogarty S, as this is the part of the track that was added to extend it, to make it long enough to host Grand Prix, known by some riders as the car park section. It's tight and twisty, as you can see, a short straight down here to the Melbourne Loop. This first gear, right-hand hairpin around 65 kilometres an hour, back onto the gas, up the hill, another blind crest, third gear, then back down the gears into second. Relatively blind entry as well into Goddard's, this off-camber left-hander that brings you back into the start-finish straight. That's a lap of Donington Park.
Are you ready, Bruce?
Welcome to Donington Park. You may recognise this if you're familiar with English weather. It's the middle of summer, the middle of July, and it's absolutely pouring with rain. It's cold, it's wet, it's windy and damp. Valentino Rossi knows all about it. He lives in London. He's used to negotiating the streets of the city's capital on his scooter in the wet. How well can he manage with Donington on the Yamaha YZR M1? Well, he's handled it pretty well in the past here at this track. Donington Park, of course, Valentino Rossi has won on all but 3 occasions here in the 125, 250 and MotoGP classes. He crashed out of the 250 race in '98. Previous to that, he'd broken down when he was leading the 125 race in 1996, and he was not disqualified, but docked 10 points when he won the race here in 2003 and relegated to 3rd place because he overtook Loris Capirossi under a yellow flag. But they just 3 blots on a quite sparkling copybook here at Donington Park for Valentino Rossi, and he has given every sign that he's ready to continue that record in qualifying. He set a scorching pole position lap here of 127.897. It was almost a second inside his own previous pole record from last season, but to many extents and purposes, this really all goes out of the window now because these conditions are very, very different to anything we've had this weekend. We did have a wet warm-up, so the riders have had a chance to just try and find some kind of wet setup. It wasn't quite as wet as this, though. It was a drying track this morning, and then the rain came back at lunchtime, so the track conditions are quite different. And Sete Gibernau, who does ride well in the wet, will be looking to use that to turn his season around. He starts from 2nd on the grid. Alongside him, on the front row, Marco Molandri. Marco Molandri, who crashed out of a race for the first time this season. He'd finished in the top 4 on every occasion, scored, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 podiums in the build-up to Laguna Seca, but he was never comfortable out there in America. It was clear from first practice. He crashed out on the first lap in the race, but back to familiar territory here. He lives just 2 miles from the circuit. We spoke to Ron Haslam during the 125cc race. He runs a race school here, and Marco Molandri has been a fairly regular visitor to it as well, so he knows what it's like to ride this track on a Honda, and he used his knowledge to set the 3rd fastest time in qualifying yesterday afternoon. I wonder if he's ridden it in the wet. We might find out as this race goes on. Alex Barros, another wet specialist, of course. He won in the mixed conditions at Estoril in round 2 in Portugal by quite a long way, and he will look to put on the pressure on the front men from 4th on the grid. That victory in Portugal, his only podium of the season so far, and Barros ready to start his 250th Grand Prix. Jody Scheckter, the former Formula 1 world champion, getting a taste of MotoGP action, and these celebrities on the grid, none of them put off by the windy conditions. Here it is, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and a quite unique atmosphere down there on the grid, and something I'm sure all of us would like to take part in. Unfortunately, I get to look at it from the commentary box window every weekend. And Nick, gladly you're down there on pit.
Oh yeah, you'd love it down here. The rain is still pouring down. I'm racing my way up pit lane. What is very interesting indeed, though I don't think they're going to be used, are they? All the second machines are out in front of their pit garages, but it's not going to dry out. There's going to be no change of machine. This is it. It's going to be a wet race, and well, as we saw in the 250s, that can produce some quite incredible races.
It certainly did, didn't it, in the 250s? And if this MotoGP race is anything like that, then I'm sure this crowd will go home happy. I seem to remember in 2000, Nick, wet race here as well, and quite a stunning race it was too, wasn't it, with Jeremy McWilliams and Valentino Rossi having a good old battle on that occasion.
Absolutely, yeah, tremendous. I mean, Valentino Rossi's first ever 500cc Grand Prix victory, wasn't it? And Jeremy McWilliams had a quite superb ride and finished 3rd on the twin-cylinder Aprilia.
Well, another man who knows this track well, Troy Bayliss, having ridden here in the World Superbike Series, of course. 36 years of age now, Troy Bayliss, the oldest rider on the grid, but back to form in the United States 2 weeks ago, 6th place there, and he's carried that here to Donington as well. Again, another track you know as well, but that's not what it's about. Troy Bayliss has made some steps forward with the Honda at last. It's taken a while coming, but it does seem as though he's on the right lines, and Bayliss, who lived in Coventry just down the road from here when he rode in the British Superbike Championship in 1999, might just fancy his chances in these conditions.
Sorry to butt in, Matthew, but I've got Jody Scheckter with me now. You wouldn't like to be out there in these conditions, I don't think, Jody, would you?
No, not in any conditions, I don't think.
You were slightly involved in motorcycle racing at Donington, what, golly, 20 years ago, 25 years ago?
Yeah, was it that long ago? Yeah, I organised, what, 2 or 3 races here, yeah.
What about MotoGP now? Do you watch it a lot?
Yes, all the time, I love it, yeah.
And but you wouldn't want to be out there now in these conditions?
Yeah, I mean, it's very tough. I suppose they qualified in the dry, didn't they? So yeah, not nice, but, you know, that's part of it, isn't it?
Jody, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to go try and have a quick word with Patrick Head, who's the technical director of Williams F1. He's just talking about. Patrick, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
Yeah, very well indeed, thank you. Now,
after some years?
It's very nice to see you. We always talked about MotoGP when we were doing Formula 1 together, but you wouldn't want to be out there in these conditions, would you?
No, horrible, but anyway, it should make for a fascinating race, I think.
And MotoGP, do you still watch it?
I watch it every time, much to my wife's annoyance, and no, it's absolutely brilliant, and the fact that you can see so clearly what the riders are doing and their different skills is fantastic to watch, I think.
Shouldn't you be in Germany today?
I was there yesterday, but I came back late last night and here today.
Patrick, nice to see you. Enjoy the race.
Thanks very much. Yeah, bye.
Well, I think that proved to show the rising stock of MotoGP in comparison to its four-wheeled, well, let's not say rival, but I think pretty much now MotoGP getting the respect it deserves. It's a top-class sport, top-class racing. We expect nothing less from these guys today. Very, very difficult conditions. We got a glimpse of Nicky Hayden, Colin Edwards on the second row. Onto the third row, Troy Bayliss, Max Biaggi and Makoto Tamada. Onto the fourth row, John Hopkins, who's qualified 10th fastest. Well, Nick, down there reminiscing with your old Formula 1 buddies, I know, yeah. Going all misty-eyed. I'm sure that you're talking about the old days.
I'm shot away now, I'm finished.
Trying to drag you away from, wasn't it great, in Nürburgring 1974 and all the rest of it.
Great days, great days, yeah.
But, well, could it be a great day for, well, it would certainly be a great day for somebody, but for others, it certainly is not going to be. The conditions out there so difficult. and you would expect there are going to be some fallers today. Loris Capirossi will hope not to be amongst them. He's never really converted his form from the minor classes at this circuit to MotoGP. This was his most successful track when he rode in 125s and 250s, but as I said, it's not quite come off for Loris Capirossi. He had a couple of fourths here in the past, but never finished on the podium at this circuit.
No, absolutely right, and he rode quite brilliantly here in the 125s. I remember I think 2 wins was it, the 125 and certainly the 250s, and he really did ride quite brilliantly. Riders now putting on their helmets, visors, and keeping those visors clear, absolutely crucial, as we heard from Casey Stoner after the 250cc race, and I've just spoken to Casey again. The visor was a major problem. He said also that not only the visor missed it up, also the screen on the bike missed it up at one point, so not easy at all for these riders. But this is going to be a very, very important race. You've got to say that the rain that was absolutely hammering down during the 250cc race, it's not hammering down now, but it's still very cold. Tyres will be crucial. They'll be very, very careful in the early laps because there's all those right-handers and not so many left-handers in the early stages of a Donington race. And, well, let's see what Valentino Rossi's made of in these sort of conditions. I think we probably know what he's made of. Who we need really is Olivier Jacques, don't we? He's going to ride next weekend at the Saxon Ring in Germany on the Kawasaki. He's not here, but this is going to be a very, very tough race indeed. But what a front row. I'm right on the front row now. Marco Molandri just talking to his mechanics, umbrella over his head. Sete Gibernau looking very calm and relaxed. I thought Sete Gibernau rode very, very well in qualifying. And Valentino Rossi, as always, calm, relaxed and ready to go.
Ruben Schaus will start from 14th on the grid. We've got a glimpse there of Shinya Nakano in 12th place, also on the 4th row. All Bridgestones there on the 4th row of the grid. Hopkins, Capirossi and Nakano. The Bridgestones have had a real tough time here in Donington. Really not what they expected. They brought a new construction tyre over from Japan to go in the dry here, and it really didn't work. The riders said that they found that it took around 11 laps to get enough heat into the tyre to actually make it work.
Sorry to butt in, but 8 times world champion Phil Reed's here, looking on. Phil, I know you still love riding a motorcycle, but out there in those conditions might not be too pleasant.
I feel for these boys. They're really, really brave with 240 brake horsepower on a footprint, you know, that size. It's incredible, but it's going to be an exciting race. And I think maybe we might see Shaky Byrne, you know, up there. You know, it'd be really, really good. But it's you know, and I'm sure the thousands here appreciate the skill of the riders. It's most exciting event.
And you, Phil, still watching MotoGP as much as you can?
Well, I'm still busy classic racing, actually.
That's how I believe.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I'm doing about 15 races this year throughout the continent.
So once a racer, always a racer.
Well, absolutely. It keeps me focused and also an engineering exercise. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Phil, good to see you. And 8 times world champion. We could do with some British riders up there once again, couldn't we?
Get Shaky on a good bike, and he'll be there.
Phil, thank you.
Great to hear there from Phil Reed. And well, as you said, Nick, once a racer, always a racer. And I think any conditions suited Phil Reed, didn't they? What a wonderful rider he was. And enjoying MotoGP action from pit lane. It's all about to get underway now. This is the front row. Marco Molandri, Sete Gibernau in 2nd place, and on pole position Valentino Rossi. His 29th pole, and in 24 of those he's gone on to take victory. Will it be 25?
It's quite a lonely time. This is quite amazing. We all leave the grid and the riders are just, that's it, aren't they? They're left alone. They're there just on their own, with their own thoughts, just looking down the main straight towards Redgate Corner. And it's quite an amazing time. I would think that's the time you gather your thoughts, all your mates, all your chief mechanics, everybody that's been wishing you luck, your brolly girls and everybody else have disappeared. It's you and the machine and the Donington Park circuit.
Starting grid for the BetAndWin.com British Grand Prix. Valentino Rossi, Sete Gibernau and Marco Molandri. Alex Barros, Nicky Hayden, Colin Edwards on row 2. Troy Bayliss, Max Biaggi, Makoto Tamada on row 3. John Hopkins, Loris Capirossi and Shinya Nakano. What will those Bridgestone wet tyres be like from row 4? Carlos Checa also on Bridgestones, as is Alex Hoffman on row 5. Ruben Schaus in between them on the Yamaha, on the Michelin tyres on row 5 as well. Row 6, Kenny Roberts, Tony Elias and Shane Byrne. And row 7, Robbie Rolfo, James Ellison, Franco Battaini. Both those riders with a chance to impress today on the Dunlop wet tyres as well, riding those WCM machines, particularly for James Ellison, riding in his home Grand Prix.
The grid has disappeared, the safety car has gone in behind them, everybody's safely off the grid. And now, really, it's the battle between these riders and the elements, and this very, very demanding but very exciting 2.5-mile Donington Park circuit. We saw a quite incredible 250cc race in these conditions. They can ride the MotoGP machines with so much power, as Phil Reed was just telling you. Well, we wait to see. But, well, the stage is set. It's round 9 of the championship. The marshal with the red flag is waiting for the riders to return to the start and finish area. The crowd this afternoon over 75,000, which in these conditions is quite amazing. You think at Donington Park, I think 5 years ago you were talking about, Matthew, when Valentino Rossi won his first Grand Prix and Jeremy McWilliams finished in 3rd place. I think the crowd that afternoon was 18,000, 19,000, 75,000 here today. And they've enjoyed the 250s, they've enjoyed the 125s, but they've really come to see the big boys, MotoGP, the British Grand Prix.
Well, as I said before, Nick, if it's anything like the 250cc race, then we'll be pretty happy, and the Australians will be happy. We had 2 Australians on the podium there. I've got an Australian alongside me in the commentary box now as well, Chris Vermeulen, here to enjoy MotoGP as well. Chris, I'm sure you'd be like to be on one of those bikes at some point, but perhaps not in these conditions.
It looks hard work out there at the moment, doesn't it? No, it's gonna be definitely hard work. I spoke with a couple of guys. I saw Troy Bayliss this morning, and he said it's just like ice out there. So it's going to be hard work just to bring the bike home, let alone try and get on the podium. But it was good in that 250 race. Good to see Anthony West up there.
Certainly was, and hopefully everybody at home enjoying that as well. We've got 30 laps of a MotoGP race, and perhaps for Troy Bayliss as well, Chris, this is an opportunity for him to do well. Yeah, sure. You know, he's been getting stronger and stronger during the year on the Honda, and he was quite quick in qualifying in the dry, and he was fairly fast this morning in the wet as well, so we'll see how he goes. Troy Bayliss certainly no stranger to these wet conditions, of course, as well. Mentioned before, won the British Superbike title in 1999, lived just down the road, so I'm sure he's well used to the wet weather. There he is on that number 12 Camel Honda, just coming through to the grid now.
Yeah, they're all coming back to the grid now, Matthew. Right in front of me, in fact, is Nicky Hayden, number 69, so level with the second row of the grid. He's joined by Colin Edwards. Valentino Rossi makes his way to the front row of the grid to be joined by Sete Gibinau, Marco Molandri. We wait for the arrival of Alex Barros. He's here on that yellow number 4 Honda with that big Barros on the side of his bike, and also a little plaque saying that this is 250th Grand Prix. The British Grand Prix about to start. The red flag has been taken away. Rossi, Gibinau and Molandri. The lights are on red. And the lights have been held up. Valentino Rossi looks behind him. There's a problem with the light. The red flag has gone back out. The start has been aborted. Red flag back out. The start has been aborted. Well, some kind of delay here to the British Grand Prix. The mechanics come back out now with their starter motors. The British Grand Prix has been delayed. We'll wait for news from Nick down there to find out exactly what's going on. But, well, luckily we have someone who knows what they're talking about alongside us here, Chris.
Maybe knows what they're talking about.
That's going to make a change, isn't it?
What do you do in this situation? What a shock.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. We had this happen in World Superbike this year, but normally they just take what I'd imagine they'll do is a full start procedure again, another warm-up lap, and take 1 lap off the race because they're not allowed to add fuel on the grid. 1 minute border's gone up. A 1 minute border's gone up. I'm standing actually on the front row of the grid. They're all coming back out with the starter motors, as you can see. Let's see if we can find any news. As you can imagine, a fair bit of confusion at the moment, and people don't really want to talk to me. They want to talk to the riders and the teams, but the pit crews are absolutely streaming back onto the grid now. Yeah, it's coming up, Nick, just to let you know, we've got 1 minute here for the start of the race, and as Chris rightly says, I think that the race will be reduced to 29 laps, you'd imagine, because of the fuel loads, of course. You're going to have to put an extra warm-up lap in before the start, and then it will be, we will wait for confirmation, but I would imagine it will be reduced to 29. I'd imagine that's the normal procedure. Oh, yeah, it's come up on the screen now, 29 laps. So I guess they'll do another warm-up lap and start the race. So. But I wonder what the problem was. Was it a problem with the lights, do you think? Seems to be the case, the red lights just didn't come on, did they? That's right, the lights are on orange now. They're flashing orange lights, but that'll be very interesting to see. I can see Paul Butler, the starter, up on the podium, that actually the lights go on. He's now switched them off. He looks very calm and collective up there, I've got to say. And the lights have now gone off, so that appears to be the case. It's going to be a 29-lap race then. They're going to do 1 warm-up lap, and we'll try again.
or everybody that's rushed onto the grid is now rushing back off it. That's probably going to have to include me in a minute, isn't it? So I'm going to be taking part in the race. But I was right alongside Valentino Rossi.
It looks like there's a problem there for Shinya Nakano on the grid there.
Rightio.
And, well, Shinya Nakano, pretty lucky boy. We've got 30 seconds before this warm-up lap gets underway once again. That's the procedure sorted out. As a rider, Chris, as well, what is going through your mind at this point when it's aborted so soon before the start?
But when it's conditions like that, you're thinking, thank God it's one lap less, you know, because it's going to be a really long race, 30 or 29 laps now around here. But no, it's not a big problem. People will just be wondering what happened really, and now they will be ready to go. So.
Well, the last mechanic making his way off the grid now. Safety car is in place. Starter motors, one seems to have been left out there, but now the last mechanic is off the grid. We're ready to start the British Grand Prix. Thankfully, we'll have one more warm-up lap, and then this race will be underway. Valentino Rossi leading the procession around here, and these riders will have to take this very gingerly indeed, as we saw in the 125s, particularly. The warm-up lap can be often the most dangerous, can't it, Chris? Especially when you're finding your way around.
It's very, very slippery out there. There's a lot of rain coming down. The conditions are always changing, and it's very difficult to judge. You know, your first lap out, your warm-up lap, you need to get yourself up to speed for the race. And as we found, some 125 riders found that quite difficult, and it is. It's not easy at all.
Well, we might not get a chance to talk about this during the race, depending on what. Let's hope it's too excited to talk about it. But yourself, plenty of talk in the MotoGP paddock about perhaps you coming here, maybe even next season. Any news on that at all this weekend?
There's plenty of talk, and I've heard it all as well, but no one's given me a definite answer yet. This is obviously the ultimate in motorcycling. It's where I'd like to come. I have a very good relationship with Honda, have done for quite a few years in Supersport, now Superbike, and we'll wait and see. You know, I'd like to come here, but there's only so many motorbikes out there, so many positions, and I have to try and find one of them.
But an umbrella has just blown on the course at Goddard's corner now, and Marston's having to chase after it. So everything is happening down here on the start and finish line. He's caught it now. Suddenly appeared from nowhere, this umbrella, just as the riders are due back down to form up the grid once again. Everything is happening here. I tell you, Casey Stoner missed it up his visor in the race. I've missed it up my glasses because the rain is absolutely hammering down. There was a little bit of a respite some 5 minutes ago, but it is absolutely pouring down now.
We'll let you off if you get any of the riders wrong today, Nick.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. I look away to my right, but nobody actually making their way onto the grid yet.
The rain, Nick, as well, from here on the screens and out of the commentary box window, it looks to be as bad as it's been all day.
I would say definitely is, very much as it was in the height. I think probably in the 125s it was at its worst, wasn't it? And I would say very much as bad as that. But the riders now making their way back. This is going to be a very, very tough race indeed. 29 laps now, a 2.50 mile Donington Park circuit, 9th round of the World Championship. Number 46 comes out of the gloom, that yellow number 46. I could almost reach out and touch Valentino Rossi, but nobody likes a start that they didn't make, that sort of false start, and now they're all forming the up again. The red flag shows once again one of the big holiday jets goes over into East Midlands Airport, just through the cloud. The starter marshal with that red flag takes the flag away. We look to the lights once again. We wait for them to come on. They're on red, and they go. The race is started. And a good start by Gibernau and Molandri.
Gibernau away well from the middle of the front row. Molandri has the inside line as well. Bayliss coming through also on the outside, but it's Gibernau who leads the way from Molandri. Bayliss looks to have a look all the way around the outside of Redgate Corner as they head down towards Craner Curves for the first time, and Rossi swallowed up by the field. Just looking now to see where Valentino Rossi is. It's hard to pick him out. There is that big bright yellow number 46. He looks to be down in about 7th place. He is indeed. Nicky Hayden as well is up there and looking to get around the outside of him. But it's Gibernau from Molandri, Bayliss, Barros and Biaggi. 400s at the top. One of them has gone. I think it's Biaggi. Yeah, that's right. Max Biaggi crashing out in the first lap. A winner of this race 2 years ago as well. And first time down Craner Curves, Chris, perhaps the left side of that tyre not quite warm enough.
And there's just so much water laying around, you know. He could have been just offline, someone could have passed him, anything could have happened, you know. But that is unfortunate, the first lap of the race. But Gibernau's going now. It's be interesting to see what Valentino can do from back in 6th place.
Yeah, so look at Gibernau now as he comes down the main straight. under the Dunlop Bridge down towards the Fogarty chicane, and this is just the start he wanted, wasn't it? He has opened up that advantage, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see, as Chris says, what Valentino Rossi can do. But the conditions are as bad as I've seen.
He's just passed both Camel Hondas and Colin Edwards, I think, into the Fogarty S's there. He has, in fact, so he's come through already to third place. Valentino Rossi's made up 4 places there in, half of the circuit distance here. And here comes Barros on the inside into the Melbourne Loop. Barros back in front, late on the brakes as always. Gibernau's flying on his own at the front. We've seen this before in Estoril in round 2. Gibernau set off at a canter in the wet there, and here comes Barros once again on the inside. This time it's into Goddard's corner. This time it's for second place. Barros through on Molandri, and a bit of a slide there from Rossi. The first time they exit Goddard's corner, Rossi having a bit of a wobble, but Gibernau already leading by 2.3 seconds. Marco Molandri just getting back in front of Valentino Rossi there as well. So Molandri in third place. Valentino Rossi dropped to 4th. Troy Bayliss riding well just behind him, and Colin Edwards as well. 2 riders who know this circuit extremely well. Shane Byrne absolutely flying on the KTM. What a day it's been for KTM. A victory in the 125, second place in the 250s, and Shane Byrne in his home Grand Prix up to 7th. Here comes Valentino Rossi through Craner Curves past Marco Molandri, and once again with Alex Barros in his sights.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying, isn't he, Valentino Rossi? He knows that Sete Gibernau at the front is trying to get away, and he wants to catch him through Craner Curve. Just look at that spray. Absolutely pouring down, hammering down with rain. But there is Gibernau. Barros in second place. Oh, a little bit of a wobble there from Valentino Rossi as they tip it into the right-hander that comes into the main straight here at Donington Park. And of Marco Molandri hanging onto the rear wheel. Rossi again.
Oh, just getting on the gas there as they come through Coppice. That a long right-hander. You've got to get on the gas early there to get the speed down the straight. Ruben Schaus is down and out. Oh, disappointment for Ruben Schaus on the Yamaha. He was down in 11th place, but riding well, Ruben Schaus, and his British Grand Prix comes to a premature end. So we've lost Ruben Schaus now and Max Biaggi in the early stages of this race. And Gibernau now, his advantage at the front is being cut down by Alex Barros. It stands at 1.3 seconds. Barros a slight gap behind him to Rossi, Molandri, Bayliss and Edwards.
Yeah, up from the hairpin up towards Goddard, the left-hander. That's the gap. Gibernau leads. There's Barros. Valentino Rossi, we've seen 2 big slides from the world champion.
That's Kenny Roberts there getting past Shane Byrne as well. Nick Byrne was in 7th place, is now in 8th. Kenny Roberts and John Hopkins, both those riders on those Bridgestone tyres that worked ever so well at China in the 3rd round of the season, that was in the wet, of course, at the start of the race. And Nicky Hayden's gone as well. His teammate Max Biaggi already crashed out of the race. Nicky Hayden, who was down in 11th place after that crash for Ruben Schaus, has now also gone here. We're going to see it. And that just coming through Goddard's there, Chris, a really tricky place, especially really tricky in these conditions.
It's quite bumpy there as well, you know, and then the water can lay between the bumps. These 4-strokes have got so much compression that when you close the throttle to opening the throttle, it's really quite aggressive, and looks like it just happened so quickly there for Nicky.
Yeah, Nicky just riding past me. Nicky Hayden is riding the bike back into the pits. His race is over, but he's actually he's able to ride the bike back into the pits for Nicky Hayden.
Sete Gibernau is being caught at the front. Colin Edwards has just passed Troy Bayliss as well for 5th place, but Gibernau is being caught by Barros, and Barros' foot is off the peg up that blind rise into Coppice, and Bayliss has now got back past Colin Edwards as well. But a bit of a moment there for Alex Barros, and well, the highs and lows of Grand Prix racing never better illustrated than that. Nicky Hayden 2 weeks ago on top of the podium in Laguna Seca, and now in the damp and wet conditions at Donington Park, retiring from the race. Now, Valentino Rossi has got past Alex Barros after that moment for the Brazilian, and he's got Sete Gibernau in his sights. Well, certainly Rossi now up to 2nd place. He's well ahead in the championship standings, but as we know, he doesn't like losing races, and he particularly doesn't like losing to Sete Gibernau, and especially at Donington Park. Shane Byrne riding well there on the KTM, and I think, Chris, probably a sign there that in the rain the rider often counts a lot more than the machine.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that goes back.
That's Molandri.
Yeah, Molandri coming out again from that Goddard's corner, and there goes that Bayliss as well. Both of them down, and well, just as at Laguna Seca 2 weeks ago, Marco Molandri crashes out. He takes the Camel Honda with him. Oh, and there goes Gibernau as well. Sete Gibernau crashes out of the lead. Valentino Rossi is in the lead now, and we've lost 3 riders in the space of a couple of corners. Oh, it's head in hands time for the Telefonica Movistar Honda team. And again, Seto Gibernau leads in the wet. Again, he crashes out. And again, it's Valentino Rossi who's able to take advantage.
Oh, what a dramatic opening 2 or 3 laps. And the faces in pit lane, as you can imagine, people just going down like 9-pins at the moment. But Nicky Hayden is, ridden his bike back to the pits. And the door has been firmly shut. Max Biaggi out of the race, Sete Gibernau out of the race, and of course Marco Molandri out of the race. Now, can Alex Barros do anything about Valentino Rossi at the front? He's very, very good in the wet indeed. He's only the second man, well, the first man this season to beat, of course, Valentino Rossi in the second race of the season in Portugal. Can he do it again? Here we are, look at these crashes.
Troy Bayliss so unlucky, could do nothing to get around the outside of Marco Molandri, and then as he's trying to get back onto the track, it looks as though he's just spun the rear of the Honda up, doesn't it, on the grass there?
It's so slippery. The track's slippery enough, and when they get on the grass with these things with 250 horsepower, it's impossible. Bad luck for Troy and Marco there.
Yeah, certainly. Well, they're dropping like flies at the front, unfortunately. Rossi now leads from Barros. Kenny Roberts is in 3rd place. John Hopkins, it looks like John Hopkins has perhaps got past Colin Edwards there for 4th place. There you can see he has, in fact, so it's Roberts 3rd, Hopkins 4th, Edwards 5th, and Shane Byrne riding his best ride in MotoGP so far, currently in 6th place, riding that KTM Proton machine. The fastest lap of the race so far has come from the man in 3rd place, Kenny Roberts. And, well, after a really oh, Rossi out of his seat on the Yamaha in the lead. Well, even the world champion can't afford to take his eyes off this track, and now he's had to concede the lead, handing to Alex Barros as they come down Craner curves. Barros is in the lead on the Honda from Rossi in 2nd, Roberts 3rd, Hopkins 4th, Edwards 5th, and then Byrne.
There's going to be a surprise result here, isn't there? Remember, Kenny Roberts rode so quite well in China, didn't he, on the Bridgestone tyres? Here's the mistake by Valentino Rossi coming up any moment now. Oh, so lucky to hang on to the bike. Alex Barros leads the way, Rossi in 2nd place. The 2 Suzukis, though, with those Bridgestone tyres, hounding them down. Colin Edwards 5th, and Shane Shaky Byrne, he won't believe it, in 6th place.
The rain's still hammering down, and the amount of standing water on that track there, Chris, it'd probably be better off with a jet ski rather than a motorcycle. Here comes John Hopkins on the inside of his teammate Kenny Roberts, a real battle going on there. But the amount of standing water is really incredible. Most racetracks, we don't see this level of standing water.
Here's Gibernau's crash, actually. It's the same thing. There's so much standing water on the track when they're trying to apply the horsepower to these bikes to the ground. It seems almost impossible, you know. And it looks very, very hard work out there.
John Hopkins is back in front of Kenny Roberts now for 3rd place, and I think Hopkins here now on the inside of Valentino Rossi gets the bike in all sorts of shapes as they come into the Melbourne Loop, and Hopkins now has got his sights on Alex Barros. Hopkins riding in front of friends and family here. He was born in California, but all his family are from Acton near London, and they're all here to watch him race, and now he's going to take the lead in a MotoGP race, probably from the first time since that first corner at Motegi last year when he got wiped out by Loris Capirossi on the entrance to turn 1.
Absolute jubilation in the Suzuki pit, as you can imagine. John Hopkins leads the British Grand Prix. Alex Barros in 2nd place. Valentino Rossi, you can just see him through the spray in 3rd place. Kenny Roberts 4, Colin Edwards 5. Tamada now got in front of Shaky Byrne. Shaky Byrne down in 7th place. But John Hopkins really does appear that he could have one of the biggest upsets for a long, long time. How will those Bridgestone tyres hang in there in the wet conditions? We certainly saw them in China with Olivier Jacques with the Kawasaki doing so well.
Just got to say, Nick, Shaky Byrne, I can't see him on the screen there, and looking into the timing screens now, he appears to have gone from 6th place. I'm not sure what the problem is there. He had dropped off the pace of this lead group, but Shaky Byrne has gone.
And James Ellison has now moved up into 11th place, and each time a rider's name comes up on the screen, it's not Shaky Byrne, and it does appear that he's either broken down or out of the race.
There's still no confirmation just yet of that, but I'm pretty sure that Shane Byrne has gone, and that's desperately disappointing from him. Well, not from him, but for him.
For him, yeah.
Certainly, as I was saying before, Nick, Chris, a real leveler, isn't it, the rain? And now we're seeing Rossi coming back on Alex Barros. There's really no time to speak here, because every time you look away, it seems to change, and this group could go all the way, couldn't it? It
definitely could. The thing for me is those 2 Suzukis on Bridgestone tyres look like they can carry a lot more lean angle. Whether the tread pattern is different and it disperses the water differently, I don't know, but it looks a lot easier for those Bridgestone mounted bikes rather than the Michelins, but we'll wait and see when the race progresses a bit further.
Well, that I'm sure will be very pleasing for them. As I was saying before, they had so many problems on their dry tyres during qualifying. The tyre took, I think Carlos Checo was saying it took around 11 laps to put enough heat into the tyre to make it really work properly, and then straight after that it started to deteriorate. So they really did have problems here, and they didn't have high hopes for the race, but I'm sure that Paul Denning was doing a rain dance this morning as he left his hotel.
No, it is going very well, and Bridgestone have worked very, very hard over the last few years. They've come from nowhere to have won Grand Prix races and now leading another one in the rain, you know. So it's great to see another tyre manufacturer in there.
Here comes Alex Barros now once again down Craner curves, getting the better of Valentino Rossi. John Hopkins still leading this race now. Barros second, Rossi third, Roberts fourth, and Edwards in fifth. 2 Suzukis, 2 Yamahas, and just 1 Honda. And here comes Barros challenging Hopkins for the lead, as well as they head up to McLean's, and then now come up towards this blind Coppice corner, and Barros leading the way once again.
Just seen Sete Gimeno storm up pit lane past us, ignoring any request for an interview from absolutely everybody. I think we saw when he actually went off the bike, didn't we? He was so angry with himself. But as Chris said, these conditions are so difficult.
I don't think anybody can be to blame for crashing out in these conditions, can they? Especially given the best as Sete Gimeno was. It really is at that stage of the season for Sete Gimeno where it's all or nothing. Really got to just try and win races. It's well, now 12 races since his last victory at Qatar. Valentino Rossi promised after that race that Gimeno would never win another race, and well, it seems to be coming true so far. What are you laughing at, Chris? He's quite something, isn't he, Valentino Rossi? And he's now passing the 2 Suzuki to move up to second place and perhaps give chase to Alex Barros. And and a bit of a wobble there at the end of the straight going into Redgate. That's where we saw Casey Stoner go straight into the gravel. Really very little grip there, even in a straight line at the end of that straight.
Oh, there's so much water. It's very difficult. I can't say it enough, you know. But yes, we'll wait and see. Is that Kenny Roberts in the second position?
It could be Roberts, yeah, that's come through, and looks as though Hopkins has lost a few places.
Lost a few places, so I don't know what's going on there. But Kenny was very strong in China, like you mentioned before. So it'll be interesting to see how he does here in the race. But there's still 22 laps of this race to go. You know, it's a long way to go yet.
We're still waiting for news on Shaky Byrne. I believe he has crashed, but we're still waiting on actually confirmation what happened to him. But look at this at the front. Kenny Roberts getting in a big slide there. John Hopkins dropping off the pace a little. Sorry, it was John Hopkins in the slide, yeah. And here comes Valentino Rossi taking absolutely full advantage. But Alex Barros is riding a very good race at the front. But as Chris said, it's a long way to go. I'm actually in the Camel Honda pit at the moment.
There's a man down there. That's James Ellison. Yeah, James Ellison, the other Brit. So sad day for Brits. Chaz Davis crashing out at the 250cc race, and Shane Byrne and now James Ellison, it seems, crashing out of this. And for Ellison, who was in 10th place in this race, and again, well, we say it about Shaky Byrne as well, but a real level of the rain, and giving Ellison the chance to run in the top 10 here on that WCM machine. And Kenny Roberts and Alex Barros now, two of the most experienced men in the field, having a real old battle at the front. Here comes Kenny Roberts, his foot off the bike, dirt track style almost, as he comes into the left-hander and just about hanging on there. And I think Roberts a little bit worried there that he was getting in a bit too hot into that left-hander, Goddard's corner, that's already claimed several victims in this MotoGP race so far. Alex Barros leading from Kenny Roberts, Valentino Rossi, Colin Edwards and John Hopkins just spreading out a little bit at the moment. Colin Edwards, incidentally, just producing his fastest lap of the race so far, a 150.3. Likewise, Makoto Tamada, a 151.098 from Tamada, but not enough to close down the advantage on these top 5 riders. Further down the order, Carlos Checa in 7th place. And then behind Carlos Checa, Loris Capirossi in 8th, Alex Hoffman 9th, Tony Elias now up into 10th place after that crash for James Ellison. Rossi looking for a way around the outside of Kenny Roberts here, and just not quite getting it as they then come into the right-hander. McLean's corner, and then again up this blind crest, and John Hopkins has really dropped off the back. It looks as though he's got a problem there.
I don't know what's going on, but he had a big slide coming out of the last turn, couple of laps ago, and he's dropped back. Oh, now he's got a bigger problem.
Hopkins in problems in the gravel. Can he get back onto the track? Let's wait and see. But as you say, I think there was obviously a problem with John Hopkins.
Yeah, there you go, just run straight.
Running straight on.
That's going into the Fogarty-S's there, I think, isn't it? Just running it straight into the grass there and down. Kevin Schwantz watching on from the Suzuki pit. And there is one Suzuki left now at the front, 2 Yamahas and a Honda. The Honda is leading the way. It's been ridden by Alex Barros, his 250th Grand Prix. This man won his first 500cc race in 1993. He won his last MotoGP race in Portugal in round 2 this season, the longest span of wins ever in the Premier class. And at 34 years of age, there is life in the old dog yet. He's leading Kenny Roberts, another experienced campaigner, in second place. Plenty of experience as well for Valentino Rossi and Colin Edwards. Lap 9 of 29. We've still got 20 laps to go. That's quite incredible, actually. Not even at the third-way stage of the race. And really only 5 men in the, well, 4 men now in the chase for victory.
And how many riders are left in the race? That's the thing to see as well. They're falling like flies, aren't they?
I think 12 riders, Nick, by my count. Unless James Ellison can get back into this race, we've only got 12 riders left.
And you just wonder how many are going to be left actually, you know, right at the end of the proceedings. It's absolutely hammering down the rain here. I tell you, it's raining as hard now as it has done the whole time.
Here comes Colin Edwards up on the inside of Kenny Roberts. He fancies a win here, Colin Edwards. 3rd in Assen, 2nd at Laguna Seca. Could it be first here? He's got his eyes on first. It's currently held by Alex Barros. It's now Kenny Roberts who comes through to take 2nd from Edwards. On the exit now to Coppins, that treacherously long right-hander as they get on the power. And this is Edwards passing his teammate Valentino Rossi, smooth as you like.
Looks like Valentino was a little bit wide going into the old hairpin there, and he did the safest option of keeping the bike upright, but now he's back in front of Colin again. So.
Yeah, just coming down the back straight there under the Dunlop Bridge and into that chicane. It looks as though Rossi just having the advantage over Edwards there. And now Roberts decides to take the outside line this time a little bit, has a look around the outside of Alex Barros, maybe try and get the run on the inside on the exit of the corner, but Barros shutting the door there.
Yeah, and they race up the hill towards Goddard's. I'm back on pit lane. We all turn to our right through the mist and spray.
Just to say that Colin Edwards has dropped right off the back of these 3 now. We'll wait to see what's happened there.
Yeah, it's a problem, obviously. John Hopkins is back in the pits. Obviously, they're going to make adjustments to his bike after he went off into the gravel. And Kenny Roberts has taken the lead as they go into Redgate. Kenny Roberts leads the way. 19 laps to go. Roberts now leads the way. Barros in 2nd place. Rossi looking a little bit more comfortable now in 3rd spot. But Colin Edwards, as you so rightly say, Matt, dropped off the pace. Obviously, he had a big problem. No sign. Just got a glimpse of him at the top of Craner curves as these come down to the old hairpin.
Somewhat surprising, or maybe not, with him being on Bridgestone tyres there. Loris Capirossi with the fastest lap of the race so far. 1:49.193, and his teammate just ahead of him, Carlos Checa, not going bad either.
1:49.4, so they're lapping over a second a lap quicker than the leading group, but they are a long way behind them. But there is still 19 laps to go, you know, so there is time.
Yes, 15 seconds, the gap between Carlos Checa and the race leader, Kenny Roberts. So, as you said, a second a lap, that would bring them back into contention here. We could see a couple of Ducatis joining in the fun at the front here, but for the time being, does look like a problem for Colin Edwards, who's lost some serious ground now, and Kenny Roberts looking to stretch out at the front, and maybe Valentino Rossi just a bit wary of that as they come down that back straight once again. Rossi on the brakes in front of Alex Barros and keeping a close eye on Kenny Roberts.
I think you're absolutely right. I think Rossi felt that Roberts is getting away. So they raced down towards the Melbourne helping. Rossi now up into 2nd place. Decided that Kenny Roberts was opening up a bit of a gap, and immediately he's absolutely closed that gap up straight away as they go round the Melbourne hairpin, accelerate again up through the spray and mist towards Goddard, the dreaded left-hander that's been brought the demise of so many riders in all the classes. Again, we look away to our right, as do all the people under the umbrellas.
Rossi nearly went. Rossi and Roberts, both the 2 race leaders, they're up out of the seat once again out of that infamous exit from Goddard's corner, and Barros now taking back 2nd place from Rossi, and it seems, Chris, whatever the problem was for Colin Edwards, it's pretty much behind him now.
He must have just ran wide down in the Melbourne Loop or something, but he's the first rider into the 48s now, so Colin's going very, very fast. Well over a second, 1.3 seconds faster than the leaders, so We'll see how he goes.
1:48.831, the fastest lap of the race so far from Colin Edwards. There is that slide from Valentino Rossi first, and then almost simultaneously a bit further down the racetrack, Roberts out of his seat as well. 18 laps to go, this race a long, long way from over. And it looks, Nick, as though John Hopkins back in the race. He's gone in, made a few adjustments to his bike that was a little bit damaged after that crash, and back in the race now, down in 12th place. There's still plenty of points to be won here, and Colin Edwards is now right back on the case of these three men in front of him.
Yeah, John Hopkins has gone back into the race. They did make a few adjustments, cleaned out a bit of dirt out of the fairing and what have you. Valentino Rossi, I think, now having another go up the inside of Kenny Roberts. Let's see who gets in down to the fog. Yes, you would say he's on the outside, but he still gets in there first.
Oh, but he runs it wide again.
He certainly does, and Roberts holds on to second place now. Has there been a problem for Valentino Rossi? Yes, there has.
That's Rossi now back down to 4th place. Colin Edwards has gone through now as well, and Rossi is on his own here. This is a real test of Rossi's race here today. How can he respond to this? Has he got a problem, or... Well, it seems to be something wrong there, doesn't it? Valentino Rossi running it straight into the chicane. And just about bringing it back on. A few moments there in the last couple of laps for Rossi.
Yeah, definitely. He's obviously trying very, very hard out there. That was a big mistake he made going into those S's then, but he kept it on the track, kept it upright, and that's the most important thing, you know. Now we'll see actually how fast he is if he can bring back the gap on these guys like Edwards did.
Yeah, he's just raced past me on pit lane. Absolutely nothing wrong with the machine. It was, as Chris said, just a big, big mistake.
We don't often see Valentino Rossi make mistakes, but when you're riding on the limit, as these guys all are in these conditions, even the best can make mistakes. Barros, Roberts, Edwards, and then Rossi. The slight gap between Edwards and Rossi as they now come through the Craner curves. Once again, it's 2.4 seconds actually, but we'll keep an eye on that gap for you. And as Chris says before, Christopher Mullen up here as a special guest with us in the commentary box today. It will be a test now for Rossi to see how quickly he can close that gap back down. Confirmation of those tyre choices there, and no surprise really, the Bridgestone guys, all of them of course on wet, but Checker, Roberts, Hopkins, Capirossi and Nakano, all of those Bridgestone guys on soft rear tyres, and Hoffman the only one of the Bridgestones to take a medium rear tyre. Chris, you're looking at the Michelin guys there as well.
And pretty much everybody's picked the softest front, and the guys out of the front group, we got Rossi and Edwards on the soft rear, and Alex Barros is on a medium rear, so it could be interesting come later on in the race.
Certainly could. So Barros really has got the hardest compound out of the four riders at the front. Roberts, Edwards and Rossi currently behind him, all on soft rears. But I guess tyre wear in these situations would be minimal.
Very, very minimal, that's for sure. But how the heat goes in these tyres when they get hotter and colder, it really affects their performance, you know. And obviously they won't be creating a lot of heat now, but it can affect the way they work for sure.
Alex Barros streaks down the main straight at Donington Park. Valentino Rossi with the fastest lap of the race so far. We wondered how he'd respond. There's your answer. 2 seconds quicker than the men in front. A 1:47.875, and Rossi absolutely flying to get back in touch.
Yeah, it certainly is. Typical Valentino Rossi, isn't it? But it really is a lottery out there, and as hard as he dares try, of course, as we've seen, you can make mistakes, the track can catch you out. But Rossi in 4th place, really chasing hard now after Colin Edwards. And, well, Barros is riding a very, very good race at the front. Out of all the people we've seen in the race so far, Barros, you would say, has ridden the smoother of all of them. And he's riding a very good race at the front. Roberts, though, on those Bridgestone tyres. But Rossi now coming back to have a big, big go at Colin Edwards as they come up the rise, up towards the right-hander that brings them down into the straight here at Donington Park. Barros up the inside.
Here comes
there.
Rossi up through that blind entry to the coppish right-hander. And, well, this is where we saw him make a mistake just a couple of laps ago. Valentino Rossi down this back straight, under the Dunlop Bridge, down the slight dip, and then onto the brakes, into the chicane. This is where Rossi ran it wide. What will he do this time? He's round the outside of Kenny Roberts, onto the brakes. Roberts has the inside line. They almost touch. And Rossi, well, it looks as though he's got the bit between his teeth now.
He's not taking any prisoners at the moment, but no, that was a very, very good move from Valentino, and he's obviously felt that he can go a lot quicker now, and we'll see what he does. You know, that was a very, very fast lap, the last one, and we'll see what he does this lap.
They come up the hill from the Melbourne hairpin, up towards Goddard, up towards us on pit lane. Rossi's got up the inside. Surely he's not going to take trying to take Alex Barros yet. No, well, I won't say they're safely through Goddard, but Barros still leads the way. We look away to our right, they come into view. Barros leads, Rossi in second place, Kenny Roberts still in third place, and Colin Edwards in fourth spot. 14 of 29. We're just about at half distance. A long, long way to go.
Valentino Rossi just gets in behind Alex Barros now as he sweeps down corner curves once more. He's not used to losing, is he, Valentino Rossi? It's only happened twice so far this season. Once to Alex Barros in round 2 in Estoril, and then 2 weeks ago to Nicky Hayden at Laguna Seca. On both of those occasions, of course, he finished on the podium. I believe he spent $40 in Las Vegas on the way home from Laguna Seca and lost that, but that could be the only thing he loses in the next couple of weeks, because Rossi is on an absolute charge now. He's got Barros in his sights, he's got Franco Battaini in his sights as well. Battaini on that WCM having to move out of the way. He's been lapped by these 4 riders, and Battaini I think still down in 11th place, so that just shows the way that this field is spread out in these conditions and the amount of riders that have gone down.
Yeah, Battaini is in 11th place. The field has been decimated, what we've lost. Max Biaggi, Nicky Hayden, Marco Molandri, Sete Gibino, Troy Bayliss, to name but a few. Troy Bayliss' teammate Alex Barros still leads the way, and the 2 Yamahas are up there in the top 4 with Valentino Rossi in 2nd place and Colin Edwards in 4th place. But Kenny Roberts having a really, really good ride. Remember that race in China? He led the way until he had a mechanical problem on those Bridgestone tyres. He does seem able to hold with these top men, and well, it's going to be a long, long way to go. They're just over half distance as they come up towards Goddard's. Barros still leads. Rossi in 2nd place. Just tucked in behind Valentino Rossi is Kenny Roberts, and Colin Edwards just trailing in 4th place. Trailing probably not very fair, is it? In 4th place as they come past me down the start and finish straight, and 14 laps to go here at Donington.
Now here are these 2 looming red Ducatis. It'll be interesting to check the lap times at the moment, and in fact Checa a 1:49 dead, Capirossi 1:48.7, so they're chipping away a little bit at the guys in front of them, but not quite enough now to make an impression. The gap between them was around 14 seconds. We've now got 14 laps to go. We wait to see now as Capirossi and Checa come through the first split. And it's 12.5 seconds, the gap between Edwards in 5th place and Checa in, Edwards in 4th place and Checa in 5th. So it doesn't appear that these 2 Ducatis are going to get involved in this battle at the front. The pace has stepped up a little bit with Barros at the front. Does appear, though, that Kenny Roberts is in line for his first podium of the season. Does seem, well, perhaps probably a little bit political to talk about this, Chris, but Kenny Roberts does tend to pull out 1 or 2 performances a season and seems to earn himself a contract for the next year.
There's a lot of people that say that, but it's not easy to ride one of these GP machines, you know, and he's got a lot of experience. But it'll be good for Suzuki, you know. I know Paul Denning quite well, and he's run that team for almost a season now, and it'll be great for him to get a bike on the podium, you know. So I'll be cheering for them.
Of course, we're all first-class armchair motorcycle racers, and very easy to comment from the comfort of our chairs here. And Kenny Roberts riding absolutely brilliantly there in 3rd place on that Suzuki. It would be the first podium of the season for Suzuki, and a welcome relief for the whole of that team. Barros, Roberts and Edwards all with their fastest lap of the race so far, all of them in the 1:48s now. Valentino Rossi as well in the 1:48s, but having set a 1:47 previously, of course, as well. Carlos Checa produces his fastest lap of the race in 5th place, another 1:48 from him. Loris Capirossi just behind him.
It seems like they're all starting to get into a rhythm now, and when you do that in the rain, it does make things a lot easier. You know, it's you can't push that little bit harder like you can in the dry sometimes into some turns, and now they all seem to be sitting there quite comfortably in a rhythm. Things are a lot easier, and we'll wait and see when the last few laps. Of course, they're going to hustle positions up a little bit. We'll wait till that happens.
Very much what we saw in the 250cc race as well.
Yeah,
wasn't
exactly.
It? Calmed down for a bit in the mid stage of the race, and then of course the gloves came off again in the last few laps.
As it always will do.
And you just get the feeling also Ross is just beginning to try and exert a little pressure on Alex Barros, don't you? Now, let's see if he's going to take the lead.
up on the inside once again. Now this is where he passed Kenny Roberts, of course, and Barros so late on the brakes as well. Just takes everything he can out of the Honda on the entry to those Fogarty S's. Left, then right, then back down a short straight, over the slight hill, down into this Melbourne loop. And Barros again, still looking in control. And Colin Edwards, well, he's certainly not losing touch, is he, here in 4th place?
Colin looks like he's quite comfortable there, you know. You never know. He might be on the limit, but he seems like he can stay in touch with these guys. He's just out of the spray, the mist a little bit, and like I said, we'll wait and see when the last sort of 4 or 5 laps start to happen.
Lap 17 of 29. Cito Ponza's Camel Honda team look on with some concern. Alex Barros in his 250th Grand Prix could be on his way to his 2nd win of the season.
Yeah, Rossi loves doing this, doesn't he? We've seen it do it to Sete Giovinazzi. We've seen it doing to Max Biaggi. He pushes the guy from behind all the time, trying to force Alex Barros perhaps into making a mistake. Alex Barros is not a man that will easily be forced into making a mistake. But Rossi just pushing away at him from behind. But Kenny Roberts, as Chris says, having a really good ride in 3rd place. And Colin Edwards certainly isn't out of it. But Rossi, this is Rossi, not at his best, but this is so typical Rossi. He's just exerting that pressure on Barros. A couple of times he's just almost pulled alongside him, just saying, I'm here, let's see what you can do, let's see if you're going to make a mistake. And this is what Rossi does to the men in front of him.
Colin Edwards, again, we mentioned him at the back of that group, a former World Superbike winner at this circuit in 1999 and 2000. He does hold the lap record in the dry here, of course, set on the Honda last year, a bike he wasn't particularly comfortable with at the time. He rode that to 2nd place. He set a lap of 1:29.973 on that occasion. That's certainly not going to be broken today. That will carry on till next year. So we know that Edwards likes this circuit, and he does look comfortable there in 4th place. And as Chris says, we'll keep an eye on him towards the end of the race, see what he's got left in the locker. 11 seconds separate Colin Edwards in 4th place from Carlos Checa in 5th. It's getting slightly smaller as the laps go by, but whether that is going to be enough over the last 12 laps or 11 laps now as they come through Goddard once again is looking doubtful at the moment. Edwards there just again looking very comfortable, taking it steady, and we've not seen, touch wood, we haven't seen too many wobbles through that section. It seems as though for the time being at least
they learn from everyone else's mistakes by the look of it. Yeah,
exactly. And Nick, you're obviously down there in pit lane as well. It's hard to tell from us here, but has the rain calmed down at all?
No, it certainly hasn't. If anything, it's raining even harder. I had to smile when you said everybody's now doing their fastest laps of the race, and the rain seemed to come down even harder. I'm right next, in fact, to Cito Pons and the Honda team, the Camel Honda team. They're pretty relaxed at the moment. They just hang out the boards to tell Alex how many laps there are left. They're not telling him anything else. I don't expect he needs to know. Maximum concentration, I would think, on just keeping the bike on the track. But Valentino Rossi again, just not nipping at him, but just pressuring him. I remember him doing this to Sete Giovinazzi on a number of occasions, and certainly Max Biaggi on a more than one occasion, trying to force the man in front to make a mistake. But Rossi seems to have recovered from those slides, seems to have recovered his poise, and looks well set to take the lead. I won't say when he wants to, but certainly very capable of taking the lead. When he chooses to do that, it's going to be very interesting indeed. Again, see, as they come down towards the Fogarty S's, he just pulls alongside Alex Barros, but again, just pulls back and just lets Barros go into the S's first.
Loris Capirossi with the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:47.693. Checker also 1:47.8, so they have pulled a little bit back on Colin Edwards there, around a second in fact to Edwards in 4th place. So Checker and Capirossi are still closing, but again not quite enough to make an impression on this lead group at this stage. Still no word, Nick, presumably on Shaky Byrne.
None at the moment, no. We heard he's crashed, but nobody quite knows what's happening. Certainly no injuries, but I will go down to the pit once again and just see what we can find out.
I know you don't like to get out in the rain too much there, Nick, but you're going to have to get wet at some
I'll tell
point.
you what, it's a bit late for that, I can promise you. But everybody keeps laughing at me, that's what's so embarrassing.
We don't want that bad back of yours to go stiff either.
Don't mention the back, please.
Carlos Checa now with the fastest lap of the race. He's got past his teammate Loris Capirossi on that last lap. He's taken another second out of Colin Edwards, so Checa on a real charge. Could it be too little too late? We will see, but Checa and Capirossi, both Ducati riders, both on Bridgestones of course as well, like Kenny Roberts in 3rd place here, and those Bridgestone wets really do look to be the business in these conditions. So Rossi now closing in on Alex Barros there at the front, and as Nick was saying before, just putting a little bit of pressure on the Brazilian, just eking out a few meters here and there. Kenny Roberts, who is so experienced. You remember that wet race win in Motegi a few years ago? He was absolutely supreme in that race, and I remember him finishing third in the opening round of the 2002 season on the Suzuki, that GSVR machine in its very early stages. I think Valentino Rossi winning that race on the Honda, and then Akira Rio, the wildcard rider on the Suzuki, taking second place there, but Roberts taking third. So we haven't had that many wet races really where Roberts has been given the chance to impress with this Suzuki machine, apart from in China, when of course he broke down after leading the race. So we know now that that machine has got what it takes in the wet, and Roberts has got what it takes in the wet, and so have those tyres. And now it's up to Suzuki to translate all that into dry performances as well.
Yeah, just news on Shaky Byrne. He's perfectly okay. He crashed going into the Melbourne hairpin. I'm actually in the Proton KR garage. We're just taking the machine to bits. And I can tell you, there's an awful lot of gravel in the exhaust at the moment. Quite big stones in there. They've got gravel, there's bits of heads, there's bits of everything in there. They're clearing out of the bike. Shaky Byrne isn't here at the moment, but he is perfectly okay. He crashed at the Melbourne hairpin.
Here's Carlos Checa, who's left his teammate Loris Capirossi for dead. Actually now he's got past him and pulled out 3.5 seconds on Capirossi. I think Capirossi must have made a mistake there, probably trying to get past back past Carlos Checa. But Checa now in 5th place. He's 9.3 seconds down on Colin Edwards. Colin Edwards just pulled out his best lap of the race so far, a 1:47.7. That was 2 tenths quicker than the man in front of him, Kenny Roberts, and as you can see, just over 3 tenths quicker than the race leader, Alex Barros. So Edwards just starting to pick up the pace again now. We've got 8.5 laps to go, and it will be very interesting indeed to see if Edwards can join this battle now for positions here between Barros, Rossi and Roberts.
Yeah, it certainly will, won't it? And I've got to say, Kenny Roberts, we keep harping back to that race in China. The Bridgestone tyres and the Suzuki seem very competitive in those conditions. And I can tell you the conditions are very similar indeed. The difference is that Roberts is still hanging in there, and Barros really having to fight hard now to hold the lead from Valentino Rossi. Kenny Roberts, as you can see on the Suzuki, just tucked in behind them. This is going to be a very interesting last few laps as they come into the dreaded Godards once again and back into the start and finish straight.
Well, it promised to be such a fantastic race in the dry conditions. We had the top 14 riders on the grid inside lap record pace here in the dry during qualifying. It is really a bit of a shame that we haven't seen that in the dry today, but well, obviously it's the rain has really spoilt a lot of things for us here today, but certainly not the race action at the front. It's tense all the way now. We've got 3 riders here who are seemingly, well, 4 riders matched almost through every corner, and this, as we said, in the 250s as well, looks like it could go all the way with these 3 guys, and we could see some fun and games on the last few laps. It's a case of when do the gloves come off. We've got 7.5 laps to go, one would imagine, fairly soon. And I know Colin Edwards, we heard from Chris Vermeulen before, who's now left our commentary positions to go and watch the end of this race from down on pit wall there and get in the thick of the action, that Colin was looking comfortable there in 4th place, Nick. But I think Colin will also be wary of the fact that if Valentino Rossi does decide to make his move on Alex Barros, he's going to be hard to catch. And now here comes Barros once again. Every time down that back straight, just comes out of the slipstream, has a little look at the inside, and just puts a bit of pressure on Barros, doesn't he?
Yeah, I really do believe that's a part of his strategy in a lot of these races, just to pressure them. What will probably worry him, though, that Kenny Roberts is hanging in there very tight indeed. And here comes Rossi up the inside for the first time. Rossi takes the lead at the Melbourne hairpin. And can Alex Barros get back at him immediately? He can't. I think Valentino Rossi is worried about Kenny Roberts behind him. And Rossi leads as they come into Goddard's. Barros a very tight line in there, but Roberts is still hanging in there in 3rd place. And they come across the line, there'll be 7 laps to go, but Valentino Rossi now leads the race. Alex Barros 2nd, Kenny Roberts 3rd, and Colin Edwards in 4th place.
Belgians, Australians, French and Spanish, and of course Australians there predominantly in Valentino Rossi's box. Look on, 22 laps of 29 gone, 7 remaining. Carlos Checa 10.6 seconds down on the leader, but just 9.1 seconds down on Colin Edwards. He's still making some progress. And there is John Hopkins, who's done ever so well since coming back onto the track, Nick. You've got to say, actually, it's Loris Capirossi who definitely seemed to have some sort of problem. And Capirossi going all the way back there, and that's, I think, now 12th place for Capirossi, 11th place for Hopkins.
Yeah, very good ride by John Hopkins. He led the race momentarily. You saw him go down in the gravel, got back on the bike, rode it back to the pits. They cleaned it up for him and got back in the race. This is going to be a crucial, though, couple of laps, even a lap to decide the outcome of this race, because if Valentino Rossi can break the field, you've got a feeling that nobody's going to see him, and he is trying very, very hard to do exactly that. Makoto Tamada was having a good ride. Makoto Tamada in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th place. Tamada, you remember that big crash on the first morning, on Friday morning, seems a long time ago. Not only did he crash at 180 kilometres an hour, but when he went down at Craner Curves, he bit his tongue, and that apparently was very, very painful indeed. He didn't have a lot to say for himself for the rest of the day. Tamada back in form in 7th place at the moment, but Rossi, without a doubt, is on the charge.
That last lap when he passed Alex Barros for the lead was the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:47.622. I've absolutely no doubts whatsoever that this is going to be another 1:47 from Rossi. The way he's just left these boys behind now, it's time to go. Thanks for the fun, lads. See you later. This time it's a 1:46.122 from Valentino Rossi. Absolutely smashes the fastest lap of this race so far, and these guys can do nothing about it.
Must break your heart, mustn't it? Yeah, it's reflected in everybody's faces. The Suzuki team, Kenny Roberts having an absolutely brilliant ride. I think up to a couple of laps ago, they probably felt Kenny has a real chance of winning this race. He's hanging in there, but now it's a battle for 2nd place. Ross has decided to go wet, dry, sandy, warm, cold. Even in the snow, you'd fancy him to win a Grand Prix race, wouldn't you?
Certainly would. It seems he can ride in any conditions, as any true world champion has to show. And Rossi has shown it time and time again. And here now on the Yamaha, he will continue surely now, barring any further mistakes. And we have seen mistakes from Rossi in this race, but the one thing about this guy is that he tends to learn from his mistakes, and you don't often see him do the same thing twice. And Rossi now leading this race by what? 3.291 seconds within the space of 1.5 laps. He's absolutely pulverised the gap between himself and Alex Barros. Barros now surely knows that this race is beyond him. 2nd place now is the target for Barros and Rossi, and Roberts, sorry, the two most experienced Grand Prix riders in the field. And Edwards, it seems, some way adrift in 4th place, just not quite able to stick with this pace.
It'll be interesting to see if Rossi says he enjoyed this race. It was very good fun. I can't believe even he's going to say that. I would imagine he just wants it to end. But Rossi, supreme as they come into Goddard's. I remember him going down there in 2001 or 2002, I think 2001, and go to hospital in Nottingham, coming back and still winning the race on the old 500cc Honda. Now this battle for 2nd place still rages. Two men that really know all about riding in the rain. That, of course, is Kenny Roberts Jr. and Alex Barros. Alex Barros making his 250th Grand Prix appearance of a very long and distinguished career. What a career of 19 years. But they're all learning, they're not learning from the master. They're falling under the spell of the doctor.
Can I, just to interrupt you there, Nick, 1:45.377 seconds from Valentino Rossi. That's another second. He's gone a second faster every time over the last 3 laps. The boys behind him, Barros and Roberts, are still doing the pace, the fastest pace we've seen more or less throughout this race. Low 1:47 now from both of them, but it's still not enough. Rossi at 1:45.3, he's absolutely blown them away.
Well, the performance of a master, we say it every week, but you've got to say in these conditions to lap as fast as he is now is incredible. And also, as you said, Matt, he learns by his mistakes. He had a few big slides early on. We've seen that before. He realises where it happens, why it happens. He analyses it in his brain. And there we go. He is absolutely running on rails in these conditions. But what a race we have for 2nd place. Still Alex Barros hangs on to 2nd place. Kenny Roberts tucked right in behind them as they come into the fog at the S's. 4.5 laps to go. This is going to go all the way to the flag. And these two, though, will be very, very careful indeed, because both of them will be very, very happy with a podium finish. Will it be 2nd? Will it be 3rd? I think they'd settle for either of those and certainly not crashing out. And Colin Edwards, we just got a glimpse of him behind them. on the second of those Yamaha. There's Colin Edwards as they come up towards Goddard. Valentino Rossi, though, seemingly on rails as he comes through Goddard, splashes through the spray, past me at about 150 miles an hour. 4 laps to go for the Doctor. This would be his 7th win at Donington Park. 125, 250, 500 and MotoGP, and it would be his 7th Grand Prix victory of the season.
7 out of 9, not a bad little tally, is it that, Nick, for just to kick off your World Championship defence. 9 races, 7 wins for Rossi, 1 second place, 1 third place. Let's not speak too soon, we've still got 4 laps to go. We've seen Rossi make mistakes in this race already, as I said, and as we've seen with a lot of riders, sometimes it's not down to personal mistakes on a track like this, with so much standing water on the track and such a smooth track surface. It can catch you out absolutely anywhere. So Rossi's still got to remain concentrated. He's got 3.5 laps to go, and he's got to stay focused right to the end here.
But he's just showing us why he is regarded by so many people as the greatest motorcycle racer the world has ever seen. As I say, he can do it in any conditions, but what a good race we have between 2 such experienced men. World champion, the former 500 world champion Kenny Roberts, and the man making his 250th Grand Prix appearance. And it'll be very, very nice indeed to see one of those, or both, well, hopefully both of those finish on the podium.
Colin Edwards' times have dropped off a little bit, but did manage to get back into the 147s on that previous lap. Rossi, incidentally, still in the 145s. Another absolutely stunning lap from Valentino Rossi, but Edwards now 2.1 seconds behind Barros and Roberts. Checker a further 6.3 seconds behind. So Edwards still not quite out of this now, with just over 3 laps to go as they come round Goddard. He's really got to pull out a time on this lap though. Rossi goes through 147.115. Now it's Barros who crosses the line ahead of Roberts. Barros a 147.3, Roberts 148 dead, and Edwards with a 147.7. So Edwards does pull a couple of tenths back on that last lap, but with 1.8 seconds separating them and 3 laps to go, he's got to make it more than that if he's going to challenge for this podium.
Yeah, you just get the feeling that Alex Barros probably realises also that Edwards may be coming, and Kenny Roberts is behind him, and Barros is putting on a little bit of a spurt and really wants to finish second in the race here on that 250th Grand Prix appearance. But, well, through the murk, through the rain, through the spray, you really are watching a master in action. Another superlative display by Valentino Rossi. He's absolutely adored by the fans in Britain. Over 75,000 fans here today in truly appalling conditions. He's not let them down with this performance. I'm sure he won't let them down on the podium, and they will celebrate with him. And would you believe, I would like to say the rain is abating a bit, but it's not. At least it's saving England's chances in the test match. That's all we can say.
Scant consolation for the soaked thousands here at Donington Park, I'm sure, but Rossi still taking time out of Alex Barros at the front. He's, as you said, Nick, riding absolutely at the top of his game here. It's quite stunning performance from Rossi and from the Yamaha. This machine, somewhat different to the bike he rode to victory here last year in the dry. They've made some real progress with the base setup of that bike. Barros and Roberts once again taking very different lines into Melbourne Loop. But yeah, the work done by Yamaha on that machine to just provide them with a base setup that works at pretty much every circuit. We've seen it with Colin Edwards as well, particularly Assen and Laguna Seca. The bike working fast out of the box. Edwards was quickest in first free practice on Friday morning. Rossi was second fastest. That really testimony to the way that they've got that bike working now compared to the Hondas, and particularly in the wet conditions. A stable bike like that is certainly an advantage, and Rossi, anything that he has over his rivals, he uses it. He just works to his strengths, and that is the hallmark of any top world performer in any level of sport or business.
I think he's gone past Franco Battaini twice now, hasn't he? I seem to remember earlier in the race when there was a bit of a battle going on in the lead that Franco Battaini let the riders through coming to the Melbourne hairpin. He's gone past him again. That's the sort of the pace he is showing in these truly appalling conditions.
Well, Valentino Rossi's stock continues to rise. It was the Riders for Health auction here in the Day of Champions on Thursday, and his cap off his head at the auction was sold for £1,900. Quite phenomenal figure, and that Day of Champions raising £172,000 for Day of Champions. And just a quick word, I'm sure that you follow the activities of Riders for Health from afar, and a chance for everybody to get involved. If you visit their website, riders.org or enduroafrica.com, the chance to be part of something quite incredible. Next November 2006, 100 bikes are going to be delivered to Zimbabwe, and for the price of £4,000 in sponsorship money, if you can raise it. I'm sure that you wouldn't have that much trouble doing that. You can ride one of these bikes with lots of MotoGP stars and celebrities, Randy Mamola at the head of them, for 2 weeks across South Africa to the border with Zimbabwe to hand over the bikes to rural communities, where they will be used to take crucial medical relief to remote communities of Africa. So check out the website riders.org or enduroafrica.com and get involved, and maybe you'll be riding alongside Alex Barros and Kenny Roberts, who knows, down in South Africa next November.
You're hoping to go, aren't you, Matthew?
I'm certainly
hoping to be there.
I'm signed up already, and there's 100 places on offer as well. Not too many, really. A great chance to do something and give something back to motorcycle sport and help, of course, Africa as well. And Valentino Rossi, as I said, his cap went for £1,900. His helmet, I believe, went for £3,900. That was a replica as well. And I think his leathers went for in excess of £5,000. So, as I said, his stock rises, the interest rises all over the world. He's got huge support, particularly here in Britain. And now a crowd in excess of 80,000 people are going to enjoy this last lap of his sure victory. Now, here comes Kenny Roberts on the inside of Alex Barros.
Yeah, oh, great excitement in the Suzuki bit. Barros gets him back.
This is going to go all the way through the final second half of this lap. Roberts and Barros fighting it out. They come down the back straight now towards the chicane. Rossi is clear at the front for the victory, but who is going to win this fight for second place?
Roberts tips it into the Fogarty chicane. They're going to come down the hill now towards the Melbourne hairpin, and I think Roberts has probably just pulled too big an advantage for Alex Barros. What a ride by the former world champion. He breaks for the right-hander, first gear right-hander, standing water there. Roberts sees his way through. If Kenny Roberts hangs onto the bike, he's going to finish second here as Valentino Rossi prepares to take the checkered flag. Just Goddard Bend remains for Valentino Rossi. His 7th win here at Donington Park. Valentino Rossi looks behind him. Nobody in sight, soaking wet, stands up and says, thank you very much indeed. Right, who is going to finish in second place?
Kenny Roberts takes his first podium of the season in second place, from Alex Barros in third, Colin Edwards with a steady 4th place finish, and just behind them, in fact, Carlos Checa coming through strongly to take 5th place, just 2.7 seconds down on Edwards. But it's celebrations in the Suzuki pit, a home race for much of the Team Suzuki, mainly British staff members, of course, and back on the podium with Kenny Roberts. Loris Capirossi comes through to take 6th place as well. But what a performance from a chilly Valentino Rossi.
Just going to try and have a quick word with Davide Prix, the racing director of Yamaha. That was Rossi at his best in incredible conditions, wasn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. He never finished to surprise. Every win is different, and every time something special and different. Unbelievable. Let's enjoy his riding. Let's enjoy his races.
And the lap time, suddenly, when he decided to go, he just knocked seconds off the lap time.
Yeah, he showed something when he went back 4. Then he showed that he could have had a better pace. So then he used it at the end. So as a great rider, very intelligent, very clever, and what to say, the best ever.
Davide, thank you.
Okay, ciao.
Well, there's certainly no doubt in Davide Brivio's mind, is it? Valentino Rossi, the best ever. That's the Gauloise Yamaha team director. Slightly different opinions, I reckon, for Kenny Roberts' wife, Ro, down there getting ready for her husband to return back on the podium after such a long absence. And Alex Barros in his 250th Grand Prix.
Just butt in with you again. I've got Zito Pons with me at the moment. Of course, Alex Barros' 250th Grand Prix appearance. Great ride by Alex for you, Zito.
Yeah, it's quite happy because for this ephemera, for this 250 Grand Prix, at least he's in the podium. He make a very good race. Well, finally he cannot win the race, but he make a good race all the time leading, and well, we're quite happy. Of course, we want to win, but no possible today. But at least he's in the bike during all the race, leading the race, and well, it's okay.
Tito, thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Was a good, strong ride, wasn't it, from Alex Barros? It was testing at times with the pressure he was coming under from Valentino Rossi. Now we know just what he had up his sleeve, an extra 2 seconds on his lap times. He was pushing Alex Barros, biting him all the way around. he realised eventually, right, I'm going to have to pass him and go myself. He did that, and to quite stunning effect. This British crowd, they refuse to be dampened today. They've enjoyed this performance from the master, and probably here at Donington Park is the biggest support that he gets outside of Italy. And as you can see, people now streaming onto the track to celebrate victory at the British Grand Prix for Valentino Rossi.
Yeah, and in fact, the fans now streaming over the track into pit lane. It's absolute confusion here as we wait for the bikes to go back. But we heard from Sito Pons, we heard from Davide Privio. We're trying to have a word with Paul Denning from Suzuki, but there's fans in the pouring rain absolutely streaming over the track. Here they come, the stewards are there, people being chased, people being absolute confusion here. It's more like Monza on a Formula One day, or more like Mugello at a MotoGP day, and now the fans being pushed back by the crowd.
The weather's nothing like Monza on a Formula One day.
Well, no, that's absolutely true. But dear, oh dear, oh dear. And they're trying to get Kenny Roberts into Parc Ferme. I think they've just about done that. John Hopkins is coming to Parc Ferme. The bike's just about making their way in, but I can tell you there's some pretty incredible scenes down here in Parc Ferme at the moment. But everybody wants to celebrate. Of course, they want to celebrate with the man Valentino Rossi after such a quite brilliant ride in such very, very difficult conditions.
Oh, I haven't lost you there, Nick. I know you had a bad back earlier on today. I hope the cold hasn't got the better of you now. But
just one of the marshals just pushed one of the fans straight into me and absolutely floored me then. So I just had a few words. I just had a few words with him, and you know what I'm like, and I'm glad he was bigger than me actually. So I've shut up now, and I've sort of disappeared round the corner quickly because he may come back looking for me. But it is absolute chaos down here, I can assure you. I'm trying to make my way back across to the Suzuki garage. I might be able to do it now. Let's see what we can do. But if you don't hear from me for a minute, somebody's planted one on me.
Oh dear. Well, we'll manage without if we can try. And Rossi already trying desperately to warm him up there. He's got the jacket on already. He showed how cold it was, and his fingers are absolutely trembling there. Kenny Roberts has taken a while to come back to the pits, but for the second successive race, we see the Stars and Stripes of America waved, and Kenny Roberts back on the podium. Wasn't to be for the victory. He led for long spells of this race, but I'm sure he will be more than happy to be back on the podium.
And I think it's just Kenny Roberts, I think, through the throng here, has just made his way back into Parc Ferme at last. But as I say, the crowd now streaming over the barriers, and Suzuki personnel standing in front of their garage, obviously trying to protect everything that's here, because it's not going to be easy to hang on to everything. But great celebrations. Great ride by Kenny Roberts. Brave ride also by John Hopkins after going off the track, but getting back into the race and picking up some vital World Championship points. Alex Barros, third place, his 250th Grand Prix appearance. But once again, they had to bow, didn't they, to the master.
He's putting his woolly gloves on down there, Nick, and I suggest you pop down to Yamaha and get a pair for yourself.
Hey, well, they'd be absolutely ideal, but what I need is a hot bath, I think. But hey, we're not moaning, but we get soaking wet walking up and down pit lane when you see people ride the way they did in those conditions. No wonder they're cold, no wonder they're shaking a little bit, but as we heard from everybody, Rossi absolutely supreme.
Yeah, I must say, it is nice and warm up here in the commentary box. Sorry, another cup of tea? No, I'm all right, actually, thanks.
I bet you pinched the lunches as well. No, actually, that's untrue. I know you actually did bring some lunches down for me this time, but yeah. But it's a real scrum down here at the moment, but it's a happy scrum. Suzuki are obviously absolutely delighted with the performance of Kenny Roberts. We heard from Sito Pons. Sito Pons had just about made it into Parc Ferme before the people arrived at 100 miles an hour. As you can see, I was like chasing after him to get a few words with him, but a tremendous performance there by Alex Barros on his 250th Grand Prix appearance, and to finish in third place.
Confirmation of those results there. Valentino Rossi winning from Kenny Roberts, Alex Barros, Colin Edwards, Carlos Checa, Loris Capirossi, Makoto Tamada, Alex Hoffman, Tony Elias, Roberto Rolfo and John Hopkins. They are the only qualifiers for this race. 11 finishers, and really a sign of just how bad those conditions were out there. We lost so many riders in the opening stages, And it was a credit to the men who came through that they stayed in the race. Rossi now leading the championship by 104 points from Marco Molandri. Colin Edwards just a point now behind Marco Molandri in third place in the championship. Max Biaggi in fourth. And I think Colin Edwards, who said after Laguna Seca that he was really starting to think about the championship now, moving to second place. He would have done if he could have got involved in that podium fight at the end. But now all set up nicely for the next round, round 10 of the MotoGP World Championship in Sachsenring in just 7 days' time. Three different manufacturers on the podium, always nice to see. A Honda, a Suzuki and a Yamaha. This is how it happened. Great start to the race from the two Hondas at the front. Sete Gibernau in first, and Marco Molandri and Alex Barros and Troy Bayliss also getting away well, with Max Biaggi, Nicky Hayden up there as well. There plenty of Hondas to keep Valentino Rossi occupied. Max Biaggi crashed out the first time through Craner curves, and then his teammate Nicky Hayden went down as well, coming through Goddard's corner. Sete Gibernau was leading the race by a stretch, but there was a little warning of what could happen. Marco Molandri going down, Troy Bayliss also coming through Goddard. There were slight warnings for Gibernau and Rossi. The next big warning for Gibernau a couple of laps later, and it all ended in the gravel trap for the Spaniard, as he had done at Estoril. Gibernau crashing out the lead. Rossi almost followed him. A big moment there for Rossi. Big one for John Hopkins as well, who was riding ever so well to lead the race at the front. But Rossi fought back, and once he had the bit between his teeth, he never seemed to look back. A slight wobble for him there, having said that, at the end of the straight. There was so much going on in this race. John Hopkins eventually, after that wonderful start, crashing out. He rejoined the race and to his credit came back to finishing the points in 11th place. Kenny Roberts leading the way for some time on the Suzuki. Another moment for Valentino Rossi as he chased Kenny Roberts in second place. It was hairy stuff all the way. Rossi back down to third, Barros back into the lead, but soon Rossi would really turn it up a notch.
And didn't he turn up a notch when he had to do it? Not going yet, but he gets nearer to Alex Barros and he pushes him, and then he decides, thank you very much, time to go, time to win this race. And he just decimates the lap time in very, very difficult conditions to show why the World Championship is the championship leader. But what a race between, well, two old veterans, let's be honest. 500 World Champion, 5 years ago now, Kenny Roberts on the 500 Suzuki it was then, and Alex Barros making his 250th Grand Prix appearance. As Valentino Rossi crosses the line to celebrate his 7th win at Donington Park, Kenny Roberts takes second place with Alex Barros third.
An average speed of 132.1 kilometres an hour around this circuit in these conditions must be something quite unbelievable, especially with these chicanes and hairpins here. The average speed through the first section of the track, through the Craner curves, Redgate and up through the old hairpin, has to be absolutely frightening. Well, Valentino Rossi famously saying, Nick, in the English press this weekend, you've got to be scared to ride on the limit and to respect the limit.
He certainly have, and Alex Barros just struggling to get his rain suit off. He will get an incredible reception here, though, Valentino Rossi. I remember the race last year when he got such a big reception. I'm sure he's going to get it again. But Alex Barros on the rostrum. What a ride by Kenny Roberts, written off by many, many people. Certainly his best ride for a long, long time into second place. But the man they've been waiting to see, the world champion, the doctor, the rain doctor, the wits doctor, whatever you want to call him, it's Valentino Rossi.
Just listen to that noise from the crowd. As you can see, they're all spilled over. It's still pouring with rain here, but they're all wet already. They don't care. This is a chance to see a genius at the top of his game. Valentino Rossi, another time a winner at Donington Park to add to past victories here in the 125s, 250s, on a 500 on a Honda, a 4-stroke Honda, and now twice on a 4-stroke Yamaha. He's still looking pretty cold up there, but perhaps the champagne will help him warm up from the inside out.
We're after a pair of those gloves, aren't we? That's what we're after.
I've already told you, Nick, I'm getting a fresh supply of tea up here. I'm absolutely fine, no problems, mate. I'll bring you one down.
But what a ride by Valentino Rossi. We've seen him win so many races. We've gone on and on about him, how brilliant he's ridden. But I think, what, 2 or 3 laps when he decimated all the old lap times in those conditions, perhaps was as good as we've ever seen him ride a motorcycle.
Valentino Rossi wins the British Grand Prix once again and moves clear at the top of the MotoGP World Championship by 104 points. He's got the championship in his pocket already. We've still got 8 rounds to go. Starting with the Saxon Ring in a week's time, round 10. And how many more times will we hear this? The Italian national anthem. Probably the longest rendition we've heard of the Italian national anthem for a while, and it's probably the one that Rossi wanted to get over with quickest, doesn't it?
The one he wanted to finish as quick so he can get back in the warm. And it sounded a bit cranky as well. It sounded like it was running out of steam about halfway through, didn't it? But nothing cranky, no running out of steam for Valentino Rossi. But well done, Kenny Roberts. Good to see him back in that sort of form, and good for Suzuki as well. I shouldn't think they're going to worry where the champagne goes because they're wet enough already. Oh, he's decided he's going to climb over the barriers now and absolutely soak everybody.
Well, he's reaching as many fans as they can. There'll be a few faces down there that won't be washed for a few weeks after this one, I can tell you. Valentino Rossi's champagne, probably worth more than the £2,000 someone paid for his hat in the week. And there goes another one. Stick that on eBay.
Well, one thing that they did forecast right this weekend was the weather, wasn't it? We told you it was going to start raining at 12:30. I think it started raining about 12:35 when the 125s had done about a couple of laps. The rain has been unremitting since then, but nothing stops this man, does it?
People come here to Donington Park